I'm Lisa Kaufman, and we will be talking about eligible participants' homeless status. The homeless definition final rule was published in the Federal Register on December 5th, 2011, and became effective January 4th, 2012 for the Supportive Housing Program, the Shelter Plus Care Program, and the Emergency Solutions Grants Program. It applies to new and renewal projects starting with the fiscal year 2011 CoC Homeless Assistance Grants Competition. Additionally, the definition of homeless from the Homeless Definition Final Rule was incorporated into the CoC Program Interim Rule, which became effective August 30th, 2012, and applies to all new projects funded or renewed through the CoC Program fiscal year 12 and fiscal year 13. In addition to homeless eligibility, projects may also have additional eligibility criteria related to disability or chronic homeless status. Recipients should refer to their grant agreement to see if any additional eligible criteria apply. There are 4 categories of homelessness included in the definition that we will discuss over the next several slides. Category 1, literally homeless. Category 1 is defined as an individual or family who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. 3 circumstances are considered literally homeless, including sleeping in a place not designed for or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation, which includes a car, park, abandoned building, bus or train station, airport, and camping ground, any place not meant for human habitation. Living in a shelter designated to provide a temporary living arrangement, including congregate shelter, transitional housing, hotel and motels paid for by charitable organizations or federal, state, local government programs. Exiting an institution, for example, jail or hospital, where the participant resided for 90 days or less and were residing in an emergency shelter or place not meant for human habitation immediately before entering the institution. Individuals or families who meet the definition of literally homeless may be served by the following types of projects that were awarded in the fiscal year 2013 CoC program competition. Supportive services only, safe havens. However, individuals must have originally come from streets or emergency shelter and have a severe mental illness and have been unwilling to participate in housing and services. Transitional housing and permanent housing, both PSH and RRH. However, persons coming from transitional housing are only eligible for PSH if they originally came from the streets, safe havens, or emergency shelter, but not transitional housing. Category 2, imminent risk. Individuals or families who will imminently lose their primary nighttime residence within 14 days and have no subsequent residence identified and lack the resources or support network necessary to obtain other permanent housing. Primary nighttime residents include housing that the individual family owns, rents, or shares with others without paying rent, and rooms in hotels or motels that are paid for by the individual or family seeking assistance. Persons who will be exiting institutions in the next 14 days are not defined as homeless under Category 2, even if they have not identified a housing placement prior to exit. Individuals or families who meet the definition of imminent risk of homelessness may only be served by the following types of projects that were awarded in the fiscal year 2013 CoC program competition: transitional housing and supportive services only. Recipients are prohibited from serving such persons under permanent housing, PSH and RRH. Category 3, homeless under other federal programs. In order to serve Category 3 homeless, a CoC was required to request and receive HUD approval in the fiscal year 2013 CoC application. No CoCs were approved to serve Category 3 homeless in the fiscal year 2013-14 CoC program competition. Therefore, HUD conditioned any project that indicated it would serve this population. TH and SSO projects must assure the field office that they will only serve homeless as defined as homeless under Categories 1, 2, and 4. And permanent housing, PSH or RRH projects may only serve Categories 1 and 4. A description of Category 3 is provided only for background purposes. Unaccompanied youth under the age of 25 or families with children and youth who do not otherwise qualify as homeless, but who meet the homeless definition under another federal statute. A list of federal statutes are included in the CoC program interim rule, and have not had a lease, ownership interest, or occupancy agreement in permanent housing anytime during the last 60 days, and have experienced 2 or more moves in the last 60 days, and can be expected to continue in such status for an extended period of time because of chronic disabilities or chronic physical health or mental health conditions, or histories of domestic violence or child abuse, including neglect, or the presence of a child or youth with a disability, or 2 or more barriers to employment. Category 4, fleeing, attempting to flee domestic violence. Individuals, families fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or other dangerous or life-threatening conditions related to violence who have no identified subsequent residence and lack the resources and support networks necessary to obtain other permanent housing. Individuals or families who meet the definition of fleeing, attempting to flee, may be served by the following types of projects funded under the fiscal year 2013 CoC project competition: transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, permanent housing, rapid rehousing, and supportive services only. Documenting homelessness is one of the most important facets of grant administration. It is required that recipients have written policies and procedures, document eligibility at intake for all program participants, and maintain appropriate records for program participant eligibility according to the CoC program interim rule. Recipients must also develop and comply with local policies and procedures for homeless eligibility documentation and record keeping. To the extent allowable, recipients must adhere to HUD's preferred order for homelessness documentation. This is dependent on the type of assistance provided, the circumstances of program participants, and the availability of existing documentation, namely HMIS records or discharge paperwork. Policies for intake. Remember, recipients must participate in the CoC's coordinated assessment system as part of intake. Recipients must follow the CoC's written standards for administering assistance. Recipients must have their own policies and procedures for administering assistance.